The galaxy had always whispered about the power of the Draxilian Empire. Their starships were enormous, their warriors unmatched, and their ruler, Queen Sarathis, was known as the living flame of the stars. Entire systems bent to her will, and no one dared to stand against her. Yet, in the center of this unshakable empire, a silence had fallen, a silence heavier than any battle. The queen's only daughter, Princess Ira, had been struck down. The news spread like fire across the cosmos. Some said she was injured in a border conflict with raiders. Others whispered of a secret assassination attempt. Whatever the truth was, one fact remained. The princess lay dying, and no one dared approach her. The Palace of Fear, the Royal Palace, was built of crystal and black stone, standing like a mountain on the surface of the capital world. Inside its halls, the air felt heavy with tension. Ministers whispered in corners, healers exchanged nervous glances, and guards stood frozen like statues. In the Hall of Stars, Queen Sarathis sat upon her throne. Her form was tall and regal, covered in flowing silver robes that shimmered like liquid light. Her face, both beautiful and terrifying, was hidden behind an ornate crown that seemed carved from starlight itself. Before her, the greatest healers of the empire bowed low, trembling. None dared to raise their heads. Who among? You will save my daughter! The queen's voice echoed like thunder. The healers said nothing. Their mouths were sealed by fear. The princess's condition was unlike anything they had seen before. Her alien body was sacred, her biology unique, her energy bound to the queen herself. One mistake could end not just her life, but also doom. The healer who tried. One bold healer finally stepped forward. My queen, her wound is beyond the limits of our craft. If we fail... He could not finish the sentence. His voice faded, his head lowered, his entire frame trembling. The queen's golden eyes burned. Then you admit you are cowards. Her words cut through the hall like a blade. The healers bowed deeper, but none stepped forward. A human in the shadows at the edge of the hall, among the foreign observers and lower servants, stood a man who did not belong. His clothing was plain, his shoulders slightly hunched, his hair dark and unkempt. His name was Dr. Elias Cade, a human. Humans were rare in the Draxilian court. They were not seen as powerful, nor as advanced as other species. To the Empire, humans were adaptable but ordinary, clever but not extraordinary. Most of the court hardly noticed him standing there, but Elias had noticed everything. He had seen the fear in the healer's eyes. He had heard the desperation hidden behind the queen's fury, and deep within himself, something stirred. Elias had once been a medic of promise. Years ago, on a human colony, he had been praised for his skill and compassion. But one mistake had cost him everything. A patient had died under his care. He had tried everything, yet the outcome was tragic. The family blamed him, the board stripped him of his license, and his own heart filled with guilt he could not silence. Since then, Elias had wandered. He had taken small jobs on transport ships, worked as a field medic in forgotten outposts, and finally drifted into the Empire as nothing more than a shadow of his old self. He had nothing left, no family, no career, no purpose. And yet when he looked at the queen's daughter lying on that crystal bed, glowing faintly like a dying star, something inside him whispered, "This is why you are here." The queen's challenge, the queen rose from her throne, her robes flowing like fire. "If none of you dare," she thundered, "then my daughter will fade while you hide in fear. Hear me. Whoever saves her will be rewarded beyond all measure. But fail." Her eyes narrowed. "I'll fail and you will vanish from history." The word sent shivers through the hall. Still, no one moved. The risk was too great. It was then that Elias stepped forward. His voice was quiet, but in the silence of the chamber, Every word carried. "I will try." The court erupted in gasps. Heads turned, eyes widened. Some laughed bitterly, others whispered in disbelief. A human? A human dared to say such words? The Queen's golden eyes locked on him. "You?" she said, her voice low and sharp. "A human dares where my greatest healers refuse?" Elias felt the weight of her gaze pressing down on him like gravity. His chest tightened, but he did not look away. "I have nothing left to lose. Let me try." One of the alien ministers barked out, "This is madness. He is not of our kind. He does not understand our ways. He will kill her." But the Queen raised her hand, silencing the hall. She studied Elias for a long moment. Her expression was unreadable. At last, she said, "Step forward, human. Speak your name." "Elias Cade," he said simply. "You would risk your life for a princess not of your blood, not of your world?" the Queen asked. Elias's voice was calm, though his heart pounded. "She is still alive. That is reason enough." For the first time, the Queen's gaze softened. Just a fraction. She turned to her ministers. "So be it. This human will try." The hall erupted again, this time in outrage and disbelief. But none dared oppose the Queen's command. The path to the chamber, Elias was escorted through long crystal halls by 2 armored guards. Their alien armor shone like mirrors, reflecting the trembling determination in his eyes. The palace felt both beautiful and terrifying, filled with ancient symbols and glowing veins of energy that pulsed through the walls. As he walked, he thought of his past. The faces of those he had failed haunted him. He had run from them, from himself, for years. But now there was no running. If he failed here, it would be the end. When the doors to the chamber opened, a wave of light poured out. Inside, Princess Aera lay on a bed of radiant crystal, her skin shimmering faintly with hues of blue and silver. Her breathing was shallow, her eyes closed, her body fragile and trembling. Elias froze for a moment, overwhelmed. She looked less like an alien princess and more like a child caught between life and death. The guards left him at the door. The chamber was silent, except for the faint hum of the energy crystals surrounding her. Elias took a deep breath and stepped closer. The wounded star standing at her side, Elias finally saw the wound. It was not a simple injury. Her chest bore, a fracture of glowing veins, as if her very life force had been cracked open. The alien healers had been afraid, not because they could not heal wounds, but because this was something beyond medicine. It was like trying to repair a broken star. Elias placed his hand gently near her arm. Her skin radiated warmth, but also a strange vibration, as if she was connected to something larger, something that pulsed through the entire palace, perhaps even the Queen herself. He whispered softly, though she could not hear, "Don't give up. Not yet." Memories of his old patient flashed before him, the one he had lost, the helplessness, the shame. But now he had a chance, not for redemption, but for something greater, to prove that no life was ever hopeless. He leaned closer, examining her carefully. His human mind, unbound by Draxilian customs, noticed small patterns in the glowing veins. There was rhythm there like a pulse, like music broken out of tune. If he could restore that rhythm, maybe she could stabilize. But how? He had no human tools, no human equipment, only his mind, his hands, and the strange alien energy that filled the chamber. Elias closed his eyes. For the first time in years, he let go of fear. He let instinct take over. The Queen watches unknown to Elias, hidden behind a transparent veil. Queen Sarathis watched him. She had not told anyone, but she could feel her daughter's fading heartbeat inside her own body. If the human failed, she would know instantly. She studied him closely, the plain human with no titles, no rank, no glory. What drove him to step forward when all others shrank away? She whispered softly to herself, "Perhaps weakness can become strength." And so, with the fate of her daughter hanging by a thread, the galaxy's most feared queen placed the future of her empire in the hands of a single human with nothing to lose. The chamber was quiet, except for the faint hum of the crystals that surrounded the princess's bed. Elias stood at her side, his hands slightly trembling, his eyes fixed on the wounded alien girl who carried the fate of an empire, Princess Aira's body glowed faintly under the soft blue light. Her chest rose and fell in uneven breaths. Her skin shimmered with pale silver lines, each one pulsing weakly like broken stars. Elias knew he should feel overwhelmed. This was not human medicine. This was something beyond his world, beyond his training. Yet strangely, his heart was calm. Perhaps because, for the first time in years, he had purpose again. The first examination, Elias took a slow breath. "All right, Aira. Let's see what we're dealing with." He did not expect her to hear him. He spoke softly, the way he always did, with patience, to calm them, to calm himself. He leaned closer. The wound was not like any he had ever seen. A crack of light ran across her chest, not physical in the normal sense, but glowing, like her life force had been fractured. Around it, her veins flickered with uneven rhythm, pulsing, failing, struggling. He pressed 2 fingers gently against her wrist. A weak vibration met his touch. Not a human pulse, but a strange echo, as though her body carried music he did not yet understand. Elias frowned. He remembered the healers whispering in the hall, that touching her was dangerous, that her energy could burn out the life of anyone unprepared. But as his hand rested on her, he felt only warmth, like holding a small sun. It was powerful, yes, but not destructive. It was calling for balance. Memories of failure. As he worked, Elias's mind drifted to the past. He remembered another patient, a young man on the colony world of Vela. The man had been gravely injured in a mining accident. Elias had done everything, sealed wounds, stabilized vitals, but the patient had slipped away. The family's screams haunted him. The words of blame. The tribunal that stripped him of his medical license. "You failed. You are dangerous. You are unfit." That failure had followed him through every world, every outpost. Now here he stood, in the center of the empire, facing a case far more impossible. A part of him whispered he would fail again, but another part, quiet and steady, refused. The alien connection. Elias moved to the table beside the bed. Strange instruments rested there, designed by alien healers. They glowed with faint symbols he could not read. He picked one up carefully. It resembled a thin rod of crystal, humming faintly. When he placed it near Aira's chest, the rod vibrated. The cracked lines on her skin glowed brighter for a moment, then dimmed again. Elias narrowed his eyes. This was not a tool for healing. It was a tool for measurement. Like a scanner, he tried again, this time tracing the rod along the lines of her wound. A pattern emerged. The glow rose and fell, like a wave, like a rhythm. "Heartbeat?" Elias whispered. "No, more than heartbeat. A song." The princess's body was not just injured physically. Her life force, whatever it truly was broken out of harmony. To heal her meant restoring that harmony. The queen's watchful eyes behind the crystal veil, Queen Sarathis watched every move. Her hands gripped the arms of her throne, her golden eyes fixed on the human. She could feel her daughter's weakness in her own chest. Each shallow breath of Aira tugged faintly at her own life force. The bond between mother and daughter in her species was unbreakable, The queen had never trusted humans. To her, they were fragile, reckless creatures. Yet this man's calmness, his quiet determination, was unlike the fear of her own healers. One of her ministers leaned close to whisper, "Majesty, this is dangerous. If he fails, he will kill her." The queen did not look away from Elias. "If he fails," she said coldly, "then no one else could have succeeded." The princess stirs as... Elias continued examining her. The princess stirred faintly. Her lips moved, whispering something in her native language. The sound was weak, broken, but carried a strange melody. Elias leaned closer. "What are you saying?" Her eyes fluttered open just for a moment. They were bright silver, filled with pain, yet strangely calm. She whispered again, a word Elias could not understand, but something about her tone struck him, like she was asking a question, as though she wanted to know why he was there. "I'm here to help you," Elias whispered. "Just hold on." Her eyes closed again, and she slipped back into silence. The risk of interference, Elias knew he could not do this with instruments alone. He needed to feel, to understand. He placed one hand gently against the glowing wound, bracing himself for pain. A shock of warmth rushed into him. His body trembled, his heart skipped. Images flickered in his mind. Strange landscapes, glowing rivers, alien skies. He was touching her life force, her very essence. It was overwhelming, but he did not pull away. Instead, he steadied his breath and listened. The rhythm was broken, yes. But beneath the brokenness, there was a pattern, a natural balance struggling to return. Elias whispered softly, "You're not dying. You're fighting." The court's doubt outside. The chamber, whispers spread. Ministers and guards argued. "A human cannot succeed where our best have failed," one said. "He will kill her. The queen's grief will destroy us all." Another muttered, but some secretly hoped. The empire was built on strength, yet here was a fragile human daring to step where none of their kind had. It stirred a strange respect in the hearts of those watching from afar. Elias's choice. Elias sat beside the bed, sweat on his brow. He knew this was not a wound he could stitch or close. This was something deeper. Her body needed harmony. He had seen human patients survive impossible odds when their spirit refused to give up. Perhaps it was the same here. But how could he guide her spirit? He thought of music. The broken rhythm he had felt was like a song out of tune. If he could restore the pattern, maybe her body would remember how to heal itself. He looked at the alien instruments again. Some pulsed with light when touched. Perhaps they were meant to guide energy, like tuning forks. Slowly, carefully, Elias began experimenting. He touched one instrument near her wound, then another. The light shifted, flickering. The princess's breathing steadied slightly. Encouraged, Elias continued. He moved the instruments in rhythm, creating a gentle pulse of light. Her body responded faintly, like it was listening. "Come on, Era," Elias whispered. "Find your song." The queen's doubt behind the veil, the queen felt the change. Her daughter's breath had steadied, just a little, but she could also feel the risk. If the human lost control, the fragile balance could collapse completely. She clenched her fists. Was she a fool to trust him? Her gaze softened again when she looked at his face. The human was exhausted, yet his eyes burned with determination. He was not acting for reward nor for glory. He acted because he refused to give up. The queen, who had ruled without mercy for decades, found herself whispering, "Do not fail me, human." The fragile breath hours passed. Elias worked tirelessly, guiding the alien instruments, adjusting the rhythms. Sweat dripped down his face, but he did not stop. At last, the princess's chest rose in a deeper breath. Her silver veins glowed brighter, no longer flickering but pulsing more evenly. Elias leaned back, exhausted, his hands trembling. "She's not healed yet," he whispered. "But she's stable. She has a chance." The queen felt it too. The bond between her and her daughter pulsed stronger. Hope returned to her heart, though she did not show it. For the first time in years, Elias allowed himself to close his eyes, not in defeat, but in fragile relief. He had given the princess more than medicine. He had given her time, and in that time, perhaps, he could find the key to truly heal her. The chamber lights glowed faintly, casting soft shadows across the crystal walls. Elias sat slumped on the floor beside the princess's bed, his body weary, his hands trembling. Hours had passed since he first laid his hands on her, hours of struggle, hours of listening to rhythms that did not belong to his species. Princess Aera now breathed more evenly. Her chest still glowed with faint cracks of silver light, but the chaotic flickers had steadied into a softer, more controlled pulse. She was not healed, but she was alive. For Elias, that was enough. For now. The queen's gaze from behind her veil, Queen Sarathis continued to watch. Her golden eyes glowed with unreadable thought. She had not expected the human to last even a single hour. Yet he had worked without hesitation, guided not by her empire's advanced tools or by ancient traditions, but by a strange instinct, a persistence that none of her healers had dared to show. Her daughter's breathing was proof that his hands, though ordinary by galactic standards, carried something extraordinary. The queen whispered softly, words only she could hear. "What? Are you human?" Elias wakes. When Elias awoke, he found himself still sitting against the wall, the princess lying peacefully on the glowing bed beside him. His body ached, his throat dry. For a moment, he thought he was back on the colony years ago with the sound of mining machines outside the medical bay. But no. The crystals, the shimmering veins, the faint hum in the air, it was all alien. He rubbed his face and forced himself to stand. His work was far from over. Moving closer to Aera, he examined her again. The wound glowed softly, like cracks filled with dim starlight. He touched his fingers gently to her wrist. Her pulse, if it could be called that, was stronger, but not whole. "Still fighting," he whispered. "Good." Then he felt something strange. A vibration, not from her body, but from the very air. It pulsed once, then again in time with her heartbeat. Elias frowned. He placed his other hand against his own chest. The rhythm he felt did not belong to Aera alone. It was bigger, wider, connected, discovery of the bond. The chamber doors opened softly. A Draxilian healer entered, carrying more instruments. His eyes fell on Elias with disdain. "Human," he said coldly. "Step aside. You have played long enough with things you do not understand." Elias shook his head. "She's stabilizing. Don't interfere." The healer's lips curled in anger, but before he could speak again, the queen's voice echoed through the chamber. "Let him continue," the healer froze, then bowed quickly and left. Elias glanced toward the veil, knowing she was there. He could almost feel her eyes on him. He turned back to the princess. He needed answers. He placed both hands gently over the wound and closed his eyes. A sudden rush of warmth surged through him. Images flooded his mind. Flashes of a great throne, room, the sound of a woman's voice, the weight of a crown. His breath caught. He was not just feeling Aera's life force. He was touching something else. Someone else. His eyes opened sharply. "The queen," he whispered. He understood now. The princess's life was tied to her mother's. Her body was not only her own. The wound was not just a wound. It was a fracture in their bond. Healing the daughter meant touching the mother's essence, and if he drew too much from one, the other would weaken. The Queen steps forward. The veil shimmered and parted. For the first time since he began, Queen Sarathis entered the chamber. Her tall figure cast a long shadow over the glowing bed. Her golden eyes locked onto Elias. "You know now?" she said softly. Elias straightened, his hands still trembling. "She's connected to you, healing her. It takes from you." The Queen's face was unreadable. "That is the way of my kind, a bond that cannot be broken. She is of me, as I am of her." Elias's jaw tightened. Then every healer who tried before must have realized the same. They were afraid, not of failing her, but of weakening you. The Queen's silence was answer enough. He looked back at Era. "If I go forward, you will feel it. You will grow weaker." "Do you hesitate?" the Queen asked. Elias met her gaze. His voice was steady. "I hesitate because I have seen death too many times. I know what it means to gamble with 2 lives instead of 1. A fragile conversation. The Queen studied him for a long moment. Her golden eyes softened just slightly. "Why did you step forward, human? You could have hidden in the shadows as the others did." Elias looked down at his hands. "Because I've lost before, and I couldn't stand by and watch it happen again." The Queen tilted her head. "You speak as one who carries guilt." Elias gave a faint, bitter smile. "Guilt keeps me alive. It reminds me that life matters, even when others forget." For a moment, the chamber was silent. The only sound, the faint hum of the crystals. Then the Queen spoke, her voice low. "Then save her. Even if it weakens me, save her." Elias's eyes widened. "You would risk yourself?" "She is my only child," the Queen said simply. "Without her, there is no future for my empire. Without her, there is no future for me." The humans struggle. Elias nodded slowly. He placed his hands back over the glowing wound. The warmth surged again, stronger this time. His body shook, his heart raced, but he did not pull away. He felt the bond more clearly now, a river of light flowing between mother and daughter. It was beautiful and terrifying. One side too strong, the other too weak. His task was not only to heal, but to balance. His mind raced. How could he, a human with no training in this alien energy, bring balance to forces greater than himself? The answer came in the same simple way it always did, step by step, breath by breath. He slowed his breathing, steady and calm. He imagined balance. He imagined harmony. He guided the flow of energy with careful, patient movements of the alien instruments, shifting light between mother and daughter. The Queen stiffened slightly. She felt it, the drain, the weakness, but she said nothing. The court divided. Beyond the chamber, word spread quickly. Ministers and generals argued in the great halls. "This is madness," one declared. "He risks the Queen herself." "But the princess breathes stronger," another countered. "Can you not see it? He is only human," a third shouted. Yet whispers grew among the guards, the servants, even the healers. Whispers of respect. A human, once dismissed as fragile, was daring what no one else would. The princess speaks hours later, as Elias worked tirelessly. The princess stirred again. Her eyes opened slightly, silver light flickering within. Her lips moved, forming faint words. Elias leaned close. "What is it?" Her voice was weak but clear. "Why, do you help me?" Elias smiled faintly. "Because you deserve to live. Because no one else would try." Her eyes lingered on him, confused yet grateful. "Human," she whispered, before drifting back into rest. The Queen, standing nearby, heard it. A single word. Human. The cost. of healing Elias's body was exhausted. His arms shook, his vision blurred. The alien energy drained him as much as it drained the queen. But slowly, carefully, the cracks in the princess's chest dimmed. Her breathing grew stronger. Elias nearly collapsed, but he steadied himself against the bed. "She's getting better," he whispered. The queen swayed slightly, her strength visibly lessened, but she did not complain. She looked at her daughter, then at Elias. "You risk yourself for her," she said softly, "and for me." Elias shook his head. "Not for you, for her, but maybe for all of us." The human's conviction. The queen stepped closer, her presence towering over him. "Tell me, Elias Cade, why do you not fear death? Every action you take could end you." Elias looked up at her, his eyes steady despite his exhaustion. "Because I already lost everything once. Fear has nothing left to take from me. If I die saving her, then at least my life meant something." The queen was silent. For the first time in her reign, she felt a strange thing stir in her chest, a respect she had never given to any outsider. The pulse of two worlds as the hours passed. Elias continued his work. The balance grew stronger. The river of light between mother and daughter steadied. Aira's pulse was no longer fragile. It was firm, steady, alive. The queen, though weakened, stood tall, her golden eyes never leaving the scene. Elias whispered, softly, more to himself than anyone else. "The pulse of two worlds. If they can survive together, maybe so can we." The queen heard. She did not answer, but her eyes shone with something new. Hope. The sound of heavy doors closing echoed through the alien palace. Mark stood tall, his chest rising and falling with controlled breaths. He was inside the heart of the hive, the queen's chamber. Around him, dozens of tall alien guards held, their weapons close, their sharp eyes locked on him. Their muscles twitched as if ready to strike at the smallest mistake. But Mark did not step back. His boots touched the smooth floor of a place no other human had walked. His mind whispered that this might be his final day, yet his heart refused to bow. At the far end of the vast chamber stood the alien queen. She was enormous, her body taller than any creature Mark had ever seen. Her crown-like head rose high, glowing with strange symbols that pulsed like living fire. Behind her throne, the alien princess lay on a platform of silver stone, still weak but alive. The queen's voice, deep and filled with echoes, carried through the chamber. "You dare step into my heart, human?" Mark straightened his shoulders. His voice was calm, though the weight of the moment pressed against him. "I do, because I saved your daughter when no one else would. I came not as an enemy, but as a healer." The guards hissed at his boldness, but the queen lifted her hand, silencing them. Her glowing eyes fixed on Mark as if she was looking into his soul. "You have courage, human, but courage alone does not make trust. Why should I let you leave alive?" Mark took a slow step forward. He felt every pair of alien eyes watching, ready to strike if he moved too fast. He lifted his hands slightly, showing he carried no weapon, only his medic's satchel. "Because your daughter still needs me," he said firmly. "Her wound is closing, but not fully. She carries a sickness inside from the weapon that struck her. If I stop now, she may not live long." The chamber grew silent. The queen tilted her head, her crown of glowing lines shifting like living light. Finally, she spoke. "You speak of my daughter's sickness, yet none of my healers saw it. How is it that a fragile human can see what my kind cannot?" Mark's eyes burned with determination. "Because I have nothing to lose. I don't fear death. I only see the patient in front of me. I've studied wounds and sickness all my life. I look where others do not. That is why she is still alive." The queen rose slowly from her throne. The weight of her presence shook Mark's knees, yet he stood firm. She moved closer, her towering shadow falling over him. "Perhaps," she said, her voice softer now, "you are either the bravest of men or the most foolish." Her gaze shifted to her daughter lying on the platform. The princess stirred, her breathing shallow. A quiet groan escaped her lips. The queen turned back to Mark. "Show me, human! Show me you can do what none of my kind could!" Mark hurried to the princess's side. His hands worked with focus, though his heart pounded like drums. He opened his satchel, pulling out small vials and a scanning tool. The alien guards leaned closer, growling low, but the queen raised her hand again to keep them back. Mark placed the scanner near the wound. The device hummed, revealing faint traces of poison spreading through her veins. He pointed at the glowing screen. "There. Do you see this dark line? That's poison from the weapon. It moves slowly, hidden under her strength. If it reaches her heart, she will not survive." The queen's eyes narrowed. "Our healers said she was improving." Mark nodded. "She looks better, but inside the poison grows. She has maybe days, not weeks." The chamber filled with whispers. The guards exchanged nervous glances. None dared speak too loudly before their queen, but doubt flickered in their glowing eyes. Mark took out a small silver needle, attaching a vial of clear liquid. "This is an antidote I built from my supplies. It's not perfect, but it can slow the poison and give her body time to fight. She will need care every day until it is gone." The queen leaned closer, towering over him like a mountain. "And if you are wrong, human, if you put your hand upon my daughter and she falls dead?" Mark did not hesitate. His voice was steady, filled with honesty. "Then I will accept death here and now. But if I don't act, she will be gone soon anyway. I would rather try and fail than stand by and watch her die." The queen studied him in silence. Time felt like it had stopped. Then, at last, she spoke. "Do it." Mark injected the antidote gently into the alien princess's arm. He whispered softly, not knowing if she could hear. "Stay with me. You're stronger than this." The clear liquid flowed through her veins. For a moment, nothing happened. The chamber was silent except for the faint hum of the queen's glowing crown. Then the princess's breathing eased. Her face softened, and the tension in her body lessened. She whispered a weak sound in her alien tongue, her voice barely above a breath. Mark smiled with relief. "It's working. She will still be weak. But she's fighting the poison now." The queen lowered her head toward her daughter, her voice softer than anyone had ever heard. "My child." She touched the princess's hand gently with one of her long fingers. For a brief moment, the powerful ruler was only a mother. Mark stepped back, giving them space. His hands trembled slightly, but his heart swelled with pride. He had done what no one else could, but peace did not last. A heavy sound echoed outside the chamber, footsteps, loud and rushing. The doors swung open and another group of alien warriors stormed in. Their armor was darker, marked with strange red lines. At their front was a tall alien general, his eyes cold and sharp. He bowed quickly to the queen, but pointed at Mark. "My queen! This human is a danger. He has tricked you. Let me end him now before he brings ruin." The queen raised her hand sharply. "Silence, General Torak. This human has saved my daughter, but—" The general stepped forward, anger blazing in his eyes. "Or so he claims. What if this sickness is his doing? What if he brings weakness to the hive? He is an outsider. He should not breathe our air, let alone touch the princess." The chamber erupted in tension. The guards looked from the queen to the general, unsure of where their loyalty should fall. Mark's chest tightened. He knew this moment was dangerous. If the queen's faith wavered, he would not leave alive. He raised his voice, strong and clear. I didn't come here to harm anyone. I came because life is worth saving, no matter the species. If you doubt me, watch her. See with your own eyes how she improves. I ask for no reward, no power, only a chance to heal. The general sneered. Brave words from a fragile creature. He turned to the queen. If you allow this, my queen, you risk the hive. Let me remove this danger. The queen's eyes blazed. She stood tall, her crown glowing like fire. Enough, Torak. My daughter breathes because of him. If he wished her dead, he would not have fought the poison. Do not let your pride blind you. The general's jaw tightened, but he bowed low. As you command, my queen. Yet Mark could see the hatred burning in the general's eyes. This was not over. As the night grew long, Mark was allowed to stay in the chamber, close to the princess. He checked her breathing, gave her water, and watched her strength slowly return. The queen remained near, silent, her massive form watching every detail. Finally, she spoke quietly. Human, Mark, you risked your life for her. Why? Mark looked up at her. His face was calm, though sadness lingered in his eyes. Because once I failed to save someone I loved. I promised myself that if I ever had the chance again, I wouldn't walk away. That promise brought me here. The queen studied him for a long time. Her voice softened. You carry great pain, yet from that pain you bring hope. Perhaps your kind is not as weak as many believe. Mark lowered his head respectfully. Strength is not always in weapons. Sometimes it's in the choice to heal. The queen's glowing eyes lingered on him. For the first time, there was no threat in them, only respect. But in the shadows of the chamber, General Torak watched silently, his hatred growing. His thoughts burned with one idea. The human must fall. The storm was far from over. The throne hall of the alien palace was carved into a mountain of black crystal. The walls glowed with soft green light, alive with strange energy that pulsed like the beat of a giant heart. Thousands of alien guards stood in formation. Their insect-like bodies armored in shimmering plates. Their spears were tall as trees, glowing at the tips. At the very end of the hall sat the alien queen. Her body was vast, her many wings folded like veils of shadow around her. Her crown was not made of gold, but of living crystal that pulsed with light. Her eyes, each one large as a human's head, glared with power and sorrow. She was not only a ruler, she was the living spirit of her people, and in the middle of this hall, one small figure stood alone. The human medic, Elias Ward. He was still dressed in his worn uniform, the white fabric stained with alien ichor and his own blood. His body shook with exhaustion. His left hand was bandaged, and his right arm carried the princess's carved token of thanks, a crystal shard that glowed faintly with her essence. Around him, the alien soldiers hissed with hatred. Many wanted to end him where he stood. But the queen raised one long claw, and the hall fell silent. Human. Her voice rumbled through the air, so deep it made the stones vibrate. You touched my daughter. You dared to lay your fragile hands upon her flesh when no one else had courage. Tell me, why should I not strike you down this moment? The medic did not kneel. He did not bow. His eyes were hollow, tired, but they held steady. Because I did not harm her, Elias said, his voice calm but heavy. I saved her. I gave her life back when your own healers could not. I had nothing left to lose, no rank, no family, no home. But I could not watch someone suffer and do nothing. That is why I touched your daughter. That is why she still breathes. A murmur swept across the alien ranks. Some hissed in disbelief. Others whispered in their own language. The queen's eyes narrowed. My healers say your methods were crude. They say your body is weak. your mind small. Yet my daughter, she lives, and she whispers your name. Elias's lips pressed into a thin line. He remembered the princess's soft voice, her hand trembling as she held his own. I didn't save her to earn glory, Elias said quietly. I didn't save her to stand here before you. I saved her because she was someone's child, because she was in pain. That is all. The queen leaned forward, her vast body shifting like the movement of mountains. And what do you seek now, human? Riches? Power? To be named savior of my people? Elias shook his head. His voice cracked when he spoke. I seek nothing. I only want her to heal. And I only want peace. The hall fell into a silence so deep that the green crystal walls stopped pulsing for a moment. The queen's claws clicked softly against the floor. She stared at the human long and hard, searching for weakness, for a lie. She found none. At last, she spoke. Step forward. The guards parted as Elias walked closer to the throne. His boots echoed on the crystal floor. Each step felt heavier, as though the weight of the galaxy pressed against his chest. He stopped only a few meters from the queen. And then, another sound filled the air. Mother. The hall turned. From behind the queen, supported by two attendants, the alien princess stepped into view. Her body was still weak, her wounds still bandaged with glowing silk. But her eyes shone bright, full of life again. She raised one hand and pointed to Elias. It is true, she whispered. This human saved me when none else could. I owe him not only my life, but my spirit. If you strike him down, Mother, you strike me too. A wave of gasps filled the throne room. The guards trembled. The queen lowered her head, her many eyes softening for the first time. My daughter, you defend this creature, even against your own blood? Yes, the princess said firmly, though her voice was weak, because I felt his heart. He did not fear me. He did not pity me. He saw me not as a queen's heir, not as a symbol, but as a person in pain. For that, I will stand beside him. The queen closed her eyes, her vast wings folding tighter. When she opened them again, the hall glowed brighter, as though the living crystal responded to her decision. Very well, she said slowly. Human, you are no longer a trespasser in my court. You are no longer an enemy. You are a guest of the crown. Elias let out a slow breath, though his hands were still shaking. But then the queen's tone grew sharper. Yet know this. My people do not forgive easily. They will not forget the wars with your kind. They will not embrace you simply because my daughter favors you. If you wish to walk among us, you must prove yourself worthy not once, but many times. I understand, Elias said, and I will. The princess smiled faintly, her gaze warm as she looked at him. That night, the alien city sang with strange lights. The wounded princess rested in her chambers, guarded by dozens of warriors. Elias was given a small room of crystal, clean and glowing, though it still felt more like a cell than a home. He lay awake, staring at the alien sky beyond the window. Stars burned like living eyes. He thought of Earth, of the people he had lost. He thought of how he had walked into that battlefield ready to die. Instead, he had found something he did not expect, trust, fragile and new in the unlikeliest place. His heart was heavy, but for the first time in years, it also carried hope. Days turned into weeks. The princess grew stronger. She learned to walk again, leaning on Elias's arm. They spoke often, not in the alien tongue, not in English, but in a mix of gestures, soft words, and patience. Somehow they understood each other. The queen watched from afar, silent but thoughtful. She had not chosen this bond, but she could not deny it. And so it was that the story of a single human medic spread through the alien empire. Whispers carried his name across worlds. Some aliens called him the Reckless One. Others named him the Hand of Mercy. But among the people, a question began to grow. If a fragile human could save the Queen's daughter, perhaps humans were not so weak after all. The day came when Elias was summoned again before the Queen. This time, the hall was not filled with guards, but with leaders, generals, scientists, and priests of the alien faith. The Queen's voice thundered, "Human Elias Ward, step forward. You have done what no other dared. My daughter's life is proof, but my people demand a sign greater still. They demand to see not only your courage, but your strength. Will you face this trial?" Elias's throat tightened, but he raised his head. "Yes, I will face it." The Queen's eyes gleamed. "Then let it be known. Tomorrow, before the eyes of the Empire, you will stand in the circle of trials. If you endure, you will earn not only my daughter's gratitude, but my people's respect." And if he failed? The Queen did not say. She did not have to. Elias bowed his head once, steady. "So be it," the princess gasped, stepping forward. "Mother, no." The Queen silenced her with a glance, and in that moment, the fate of the human medic was sealed. That night, Elias sat alone, hands trembling. He had faced death before, but never like this. Yet when the princess entered his chamber, her steps soft, her voice trembling, he found calm again. "You should not go," she whispered. "The trial is cruel. Many stronger than you have fallen." Elias smiled faintly, tired but true. "I have fallen before. I got back up." That is what humans do. The princess reached for his hand. Their fingers touched, human and alien, fragile and strange, but alive. "Then I will pray for you," she said. And though Elias had long stopped believing in prayer, he felt strength return to him. When dawn came, the circle of trials awaited. Thousands of aliens gathered in the arena, their voices hissing like a storm. The Queen stood above, her wings spread wide, and the princess beside her, pale with worry. Elias Ward stepped into the circle, a single human against a galaxy's doubt. The trial began, and the story of the human with nothing to lose was not yet finished.